G'day guys, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 15 of the Supercoach Swordplay podcast. I'm Rossco, and tonight I am going to be your very special host for the first time, which I'm very much looking forward to. Also joined by DR. How you going, DR?
Very good, mate, and looking forward to your first hosting of the Swordplay Pod. I know you've been doing a few Game Day Squad videos lately, and we'll be talking about that tonight. You two absolutely flying at the moment, but going well, mate. Looking forward to another potty with you two boys.
Yeah, and we've also got Janath, who has been spending most of his week so far tooting his own horn, how good he is at Supercoach, how good he is at Game Day Squad. But he's here as well, and as you can see, he's very happy to be here.
Absolutely not. That is a ludicrous statement to make. But look, I'll take it. I like when you guys toot my horn, not my own, not myself. But nah, it's good. It's good. I'm up and about today because OKC is one win away from an NBA Finals victory. So that's where my head's at the moment. But nah, looking forward to being on the potty with you boys. And yeah, no spills tonight, which is a bit unfortunate. We'll touch on it a bit later on as to why that is. But yeah, mate, happy to be on. Keen to see you hosting tonight.
100%. And obviously, we've got a lot to get through. So we'll start off with a bit of Game Day Squad, go through our round reviews, DR's rant, then we'll get through some injuries, some rookies. We'll go through our ever-popular trade target tier list for players that had the bye last week, a little bit of strategy, then into some trades, captains, of which there are some very tasty matchups this round, and then a mailbag. So looking forward to getting straight into it. Special thank you to anyone who's purchased a beanie. I've got mine on tonight. We've raised $310 for the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal. And a special shout out to the team at Speedy Tees as well for providing these lovely rugby jumpers, our merchandise, all that. They do a really great job as well. And of course, we have a special phrase for this episode tonight. It didn't go off last week. So hopefully we'll be able to find someone who can crack the code tonight. Now, Janath, I think I'll let you take this one away, mate. Let's get us into some Game Day Squad and keep us all posted how you went.
Yeah, so you guys may see that the Swordplay channel, we're not transitioning away at all from any of the Supercoach content, but the Game Day Squad content's definitely been ramped up over the last couple of weeks. And last week was the very first week of the Contender competition, which was a brand new competition over at Game Day Squad. You can only play your golds, silvers, and bronzes. And wouldn't you know it, Rossco and I, we may not just be half decent at Supercoach, we may be decent at Game Day Squad as well. So Rossco, you can see there, finishing in 6th place, and myself got a handy third place finish in the first week of Contender. I know DR, you're just around the corner there from us.
Just around the corner. Keep scrolling, boys. You're so kind. He's just around the corner, a mile off, an absolute mile off. But I do have my gold Heaney, my gold John Jake, and the silver Nick Dacos to bring back into play this week. So I'm hoping for a better result, mate. But you are too kind there with just around the corner, brother.
No, that's right. It's just all it takes is a good pack or two, and honestly, the team can get set up like that. Now, if you guys are looking to compete in Contender, head over there onto Game Day Squad. I know a lot of you guys have used their referral code, and we can't thank you enough. Keep using that referral code PEANUT, PEANUT. You get hooked up with some good packs, and then also what we're looking to do next year is we're probably looking to create sort of competition amongst the Supercoach Swordplay community in Game Day Squad as well. So that's just something to keep your eye out on. Now, one thing you guys really liked a couple of weeks ago was the guess the highest Supercoach predictor, we'll say, and you get a free card basically. So we're bringing that back this week. Very quickly, boys, I'm gonna get you boys involved in this. Who do you reckon is going to be the highest Supercoach scorer this round? Very quickly, no data, no nothing.
DR, go for it. I need some time to think here.
Well, look, he disappointed us all very much last week, but I'm expecting the biggest response possible here. I'm going with the Bond. Surely you got to go with the Bond. This man has to come back to form.
I like it. Rossco?
Okay, maybe not Lockie Neal against Geelong in the whiteout game where all the fans are going to be wearing the white T-shirts. Maybe Caleb Sarong or Andrew Brayshaw against Essendon. That's the early matchup that I'm looking to target.
Look, I'm going to go a bit left field here. And I don't know. I'm going to go with Sam Darcy. Like, look, he could score about 80, but if he kicks a bag on Richmond, it's going to be a disgusting score. You can just feel it. So I'm going to go Sam Darcy, one out of left field. But look, you guys, I want to hear who you guys think will be the highest Supercoach scorer this round. And if you win, or if you get the highest score, even if it's a joint highest, you get to choose either a gold or a platinum off the card, off the highest scorer. So I know that there's a bit of a market share between golds and platinums at the moment. You get to choose which one you want, and we'll make sure to hook you up with it in the coming weeks. So that's a game day squad update, and keep your eyes peeled for Ross and I doing a special squad builder game day squad video in the upcoming days.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Should be really good. And hopefully we can replicate those heights this time next week as well. Now, let's go on to our Supercoach round reviews. A bit of a mixed bag for three of us, except for one man. I'll start off with you, DR, on the left there. Give us a bit of an insight as to how your weekend went.
Well, quickly, Rossco, if you compare myself, you and Spills, what's that? Is that like a 15-point range between the three of us this week?
Points.
Well, I went up 10 spots. So talk about par. That is absolutely as par as you can get for my rank. But it was a little green arrow, but I feel like I'm still continuing to fall backwards a little bit. But 3,362 for an overall rank. It's not the end of the world, but I do regret that Bont decision. I should have held off. I should have stayed disciplined. But as I said, hope he rewards us this week. Ended up getting the captain right this week, which was a VC on Andy Brayshaw. Didn't get greedy and try to take a massive Gawn score and saved a couple of points there. But a bit mediocre. You know, I missed out on a couple of big ceiling scores like your Holmes, who, Janath, I know you have, mate, and I think he's a bit of a reason why you just continue to smash up the ranks. But I'm going to try my best in the next probably 1 to 2 weeks to get that 23rd premium. But when I say premium, I think I use that word very, very loosely. And we may talk about that when we get to the strategy section, Rossco. But yeah, just feel like I'm cruising along at the moment, mate, and not really doing too much. How about yourself, brother?
Yeah, look, 2047 was the lowest on the pod, but I still think it was a pretty decent score, top 11%. And I got very fortunate. So in one of my head-to-head matchups that I was sort of looking for in a league with all my mates, I ended up on 2041 against my mate who also finished on 2041. And then my captain, De Koning, got scaled up 3. So I ended up winning that by 6 points, which was very stiff for him, but solidifies me up there in the top end of the ladder, hopefully looking towards finals. And it was a good reaction moment for all of us when everyone was looking after and saw that it was a draw, and then 5 minutes later saw me on top. So that was pretty funny. I think nailing another captain this week will be very important. De Koning was good, not elite, but he was good enough compared to Bont, who was very stinky. So I'll be looking forward to hopefully get another captain this week. And I think I've got 23 again. So should be all right. Now, Janath, 2190. I need to know who you've been speaking to, what kind of witchcraft you've been doing. What's going on?
Look, I will tell you that I don't know how it's happened, but this may be the first time ever that I've had 3 buy rounds which have all worked. Like it's a bit nuts in a way that things are sort of fallen into place a little bit. And look, there's a certain element of luck. Like last week on the potty, I was talking about whether to go sort of the Colby McKerch and then Callum Mills rep this week or just pay up and get Naz. In the end, I was thinking, well, if I bring in McKerch, I have 4 North players, Daniel, Sheasel, Cherry, McKercher. How many weeks they're probably going to go 100? And must credit Fari, the great Fari, who's also ranked quite highly, great man in the X community as well, as sort of helped me make that decision in the end. But yeah, went Naz, got that 119 on debut, really happy there. Also went with Butters. Look, not the best debut, but plenty worse there. Sack Johnson, I feel like everyone brought in. But the real sort of engine at the end of the round that sort of propelled that score is a man called Tom McCarthy. Had him on field, got the 133. It's nuts. And Dia, you're going on about trying to find a way to get a 23rd. is it wild to think now that Tom McCarthy may be the 23rd? Like, what's going to change in terms of role? That yes, he's not going to score 130 every week. We saw with Riley Bice, he starts well, and they're rookies at the end of the day. But as a halfback for the worst team in the league, is there more premium sort of super coach position?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was thinking about downgrading Roberts to Mills this week. I thought, is it even worth doing when you've got potentially McCarthy there? It's all about the role. What do you have basically every kick in? Yeah. How good with his disposal efficiency? Like, that is elite.
93%. Yeah.
That wow, 90 plus. Yeah. That is absolutely fantastic. And I've got a feeling he may have even started as a sub. I know there was a bit of a late change in regards to the setup of the team, but surely from now, after what they've seen, they're just going to continue to give him that role. He did everything really that they'd want to see from him. So I think he's a fantastic investment. Now, the big question is, lots of people need to downgrade anyway to get to a premium. So for some, he could be that bonus 24th guy on your bench. But to have him as your 23rd, I don't think, from what we've seen, could be the worst thing. We can think back to what Goulden did, Barlow. There's been rookies that have actually done this before, but can he continue? It's a big question, but surely he's got to, just with the role alone, that's a 80-point plus role, you'd think, from most weeks.
The beauty of it, though, and this is where I'm coming from, is that he doesn't need to score 130 every week, because at the flex, ideally, you don't want to see him make the field in many weeks at all. So when he is that 23rd, if you got the 22 best players out there, and then one of them happens to get injured early or has a poor score, if McCarthy's got you to an 80, that's really beneficial. You haven't used a trade to get that 23rd that may not have seen the field either. So I think in that sort of sense, it's sort of a blessing in disguise that I went Naz, because now I've got a guy that for the next couple of weeks, I don't mind having him at the 23rd. And if for whatever reason I need to make some money elsewhere, I can move some of the other rookies on to get a better option in that flex. But we'll see when time comes to it. I guess you guys are wondering sort of what sort of help with this squad. I guess holding some of those premiums that people wanted to trade out. So I'm talking about Jason Horn-Francis, TDK. They both scored really well. And then Maxi Holmes, Lockie Whitfield, these guys that have been inconsistent or had role changes, it's sort of felt like they all put it together in the same week. And that's where it really came together. Really happy with the Holmes pick. Like Rossco, he's just one of those players you just love to watch, don't you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. And I also managed to jump on what seems like the right time. I know Kata, big shout out to you, mate, was mentioning it on his Twitter. What a great buy he's been. And absolutely that. He scored 155 and like whatever it was last week, just completely huge. He's going completely crazy. Now, we got Spillsies as well. He says that he brought in Naz, McKercher, and Zach Johnson for Merritt, Lindsay, and Campbell Gray, which seems like it has worked. I don't remember what Merritt scored, but Lindsay was the sub and Gray's obviously out. Zach Johnson went pretty well as well. Gorn captain for a 126, which is a pretty decent captaincy score. And he says he's got 5 with the bye this week, which will hurt, but he's not looking to trade. I think he's sort of trying to set himself up a little bit for round 16, which, as we know, is probably going to be the real danger round. And, if it means maybe 20 or 21 this week, but then you get to move a couple of them on for next week to get yourself up to 23, then that's probably a better way to do it in such a dangerous bye round that we have next week. Now, top of the pod, we've got Janath there, still sitting pretty, DR and Spills, and I'm not far away. I'm coming. Now, DR, we'll throw it over to you for a bit of a rant and some thoughts that you've had throughout the weekend.
Well, there's many things I could have ranted about. Originally, I was coming on to give the Lions an absolute serve. It was one of the most frustrating watches. GWS were absolutely kicking the lights out. Cadman, Hogan at the start. I think that was something like 8 goals straight. And I was watching our boys just absolutely butcher it. We should have had that game almost iced, I reckon, in the first half. And then, we just could not put it through the big sticks. But I'm not going to go on about that. I then was going to talk about my trades. I stuffed up my trades. The reception there was absolutely terrible. And I thought that I'd actually traded Lockie Neal out of my side. So when I was watching him go around to kick that goal, I was like cheering for him, but in my heart of hearts thinking, oh no, I've just traded him out. Realised when I went out of the ground at halftime that I hadn't actually traded him out. I'm like, oh, my trade plans have gone all wrong here. But he was looking okay. And as soon as I realised that I owned him, he basically scored nothing for the rest of the game. So that was a bit of a tough own there. And originally I was going to keep Matty Carroll. His best game of his career. And it just did not work out. But one thing I want to touch on here, and this is a bit of a reason why Spillsy isn't joining us tonight. I had a bit of a chat with him last night. We've all been, we all talk to each other during the week. And for Spillsy, and I know many of us this season in particular, just not feeling it. You've got the man here, and he's just going back to the drawing board, the Supercoach drawing board, thinking, what on earth can I do? I've got no cash. Look at him. He's got no shoes. He's poor. There's not much going on here, and he feels helpless. Nothing that he can do when it comes to his Supercoach side. And when I say he, I'm talking about this man in the picture here and some of the Supercoach community in general, I suppose. I've had a few DMs from people saying, I've just lost a bit of the passion. And I honestly reckon this has been the toughest Supercoach season that we've had on record. With the rookies, with the subs, the inconsistency, that third game curse. They look good in the first couple of games. We bring them in, they give a 20 or 30 or something. All of a sudden, the cash gen's gone. It's been very tough for most of us, apart from Janath, who's absolutely killing it, just looking at us down from the top of his castle there in the top 100, in the top 1,000. I'm joking, mate. He hates when I say that, but we're very, very proud of him. But yeah, I know that going back to Spillsy, he's feeling a bit like this at the moment. So he thought, look, going to take a couple of weeks off Supercoach and just do some other things. Obviously playing footy at the moment. Boys may have something going on as well in the certain Cupid department, which is very nice. So yeah, he's got some good things going on in his life. So it's not like he's all out and down and about, but he just thought, look, not really feeling Supercoach at the moment. So going to focus on some other things that I'm enjoying, and in a couple of weeks going to get back to it. But yeah, he'll be away for the next couple, but wish him all the best, and he'll be back cracking and firing very, very soon, lads. But have you guys felt yourselves, I know you haven't been playing for as long as I am simply because of our age, I'm the old grandpa here, but have you honestly felt that this has been one of the toughest seasons, if not the toughest seasons of Supercoach to navigate thus far?
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess I'd say my first competitive season was the COVID season, like 2020. And so that year I found easier than this year. And that's saying something, because 2020 put up so many curveballs. Like, we had breaks in the season. We had buys every other week sort of thing. But it's just like this year, I guess maybe it's sort of wrapped into starting med school, not being able to watch as many games, seeing every single rookie you're trading get injured or subbed out. It's just been quite frustrating. And so in that sense, I empathize with you, DR, with Spills, with anyone else who's gone through this, because it's like, it's just been a really weird Supercoach season. There's not as much buzz, perhaps. And I say this straight from the heart, perhaps Game Day Squad being there sort of taken a bit of the allure out of sort of investing so much time in Supercoach in a way, because we have that sort of platform to sort of consider otherwise. And then whatever data we've sort of generated for that, we can sort of bring into Supercoach. So, like, I think that's where it sort of resonates a little bit. I don't know about you, Rossco. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think sort of maybe around round 7, round 8, where my team was really, really stinking it up, overthinking a lot of the trade choices, the captain choices, all that sort of stuff. I was sort of very similar, but now I think this season has sort of given us a completely different way of playing the game in a sense, you know, with this flex, with the different buys. Like, I feel like for me, I'm actually quite comfortable with where my team's sitting at the moment. Like, obviously not ranking wise, I prefer to be really up there. But, you know, the moves that I've made in the last couple of weeks, even though they haven't been necessarily perfect, I think it's just shown that, you know, we can get a bit more creative with things. And, you know, we're getting people coming on the mailbag asking if they should trade Gorn and stuff like that. Like, when would you ever consider something like that?
Yeah.
You know, when would you ever consider running a 99K to round out your team? You know, like, it's just completely crazy that these things are what we're considering. But, you know, finding the value, like, I know that I've enjoyed picking up, you know, players like Holmes, Stewart, value forwards, you know, jumping on Shea Bolton, stuff like that. and they're going well. You know, they're not stinking it up. Like, obviously, you know, they have their up and down weeks, but, you know, I'm quite enjoying at the moment a different way to play the game. And I think it's going to really change how I start my side next year, whether it's guns and rookies or a bit more adventurous. You know, I probably had some players this year that I wouldn't have had in other years. So a bit of both sides of the coin there, I guess, as well.
Yeah, very good, mate. And just very quickly on that strategy, next year, is it the year of like the second midfielder in line? So not that big boy from each side. Just go for that next guy down, like your McCluggage type picks who you pretty much know aren't going to cop the tag. Could that make life a little bit easier? That's something I'm seriously looking at. Maybe not going the big dogs who you know are going to be the major tag targets and could have those up and downs. Maybe go for that guy just that next rung under who won't cop the tag, like maybe like your George Hewitt type pick. So, yeah, something to consider maybe for next year. I'm thinking forward planning anyway.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get on to the hot topics here. We've got the injuries. I'll quickly bring them up. I don't think from memory there was too many Supercoach relevant ones. We obviously had some bad ones with Jack Payne DR. You would have seen it. It looked very.
I actually said to Janath, messaging, and I said it was absolutely sickening because he was actually screaming out in pain, the poor bugger as well. So it was like, it honestly made me sick. I felt so sorry for him. And look, not like life ending, I understand that, but from a footy standpoint for the poor bloke, it's shattering news for the club. And I think Dizzy Gardner probably gets in. I want to see Tom Duday, but Dizzy was pulled from the VFL last week, so he may potentially, well, I'm thinking because he got pulled, maybe he gets a spot first or a look in first. But I'd really love to see Tommy Duday come into the side because I highly rate him, and I think he could, do a really good job in place. But, yeah, bad news for old Painey, mate.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll get to Brisbane very shortly, but we've got Adelaide. We get Peatling back this round. And we also might get Sid Draper sort of coming into the mix. I don't think we should be relying on him as a reliable rookie option.
Yeah.
Kitty Coleman still a while away. McCarthy and Payne with their knees. McInerney probably not going to displace Fort, but we don't really need to consider Fort as an option. Janath, your boys Carlton. I know Mackay is now gone out 4 to 6 weeks. Kerno got subbed out during the game.
Yeah, Sammy Walsh at 4 to 5 weeks, probably the big one, has a hot spot on his foot. Basically means something that's sort of a bit susceptible to fracture if he plays through it. And so they're taking the cautious approach, taking him out for 4 to 5 weeks, a big one. But in terms of the Blues midfield, something that's really interesting to see is that this probably puts even more emphasis on Holden Chera. Like through the run, now he's probably got an even more enhanced role along with George Hewitt. I'm just having a quick look at what happened with the CBAs. So Chera's CBAs went down, but Hewitt's went up 23%. So Chera went down 11. The big winner there was sort of those ancillary midfielders in Cooper Lord went from 0% to 30%. And then Jesse Motlop went from 0 to 30 as that sort of hybrid forward into the midfield. Okay. But so that's probably where we're leaning. There's no real midfielders that are sort of in the VFL or anything that have put their hand up because we just don't have them in a way. So Cooper Lord, if you're looking for Smokey, I know he's got forward DPP as well. It was one that I was touting a bit last week to a couple of people. 75 on the weekend doesn't set the world alight, but you could go there if you want. And then with those key forwards, it's just a mess at the moment. May this be Mark Pinnett coming back in and TDK going forward? As an owner, I don't like it, but there's really not many other options. Maybe Harry Lemmy as an option to get his AFL debut. We'll see as it's send the article there. And then Lewis Young is obviously the other one. But as we said last week, he's a Carlton whipping boy. So you never know. Depth is definitely being tested at the Blues.
100%. We've also lost Hudson O'Keefe, who was one I was keen to mention in the rookie data dump. He's played his 2 games, but we've got to add another month for him. So probably not this year, coming off a hamstring injury as well. Collingwood, I don't really know what to make of this. TBC, tests. Yeah, there's not really too much going on here. Essendon, I'll probably have to zoom out to fit their whole injury list in. Reed, 2 weeks away. Ridley, 2 weeks away. Mackay, to be confirmed. Saad, 2 weeks away. The rest, I probably wouldn't be relying on.
Very quickly on that. Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson as a topic. 29 touches, 8 marks on the weekend. Do you guys see a world where he actually holds this spot with all the defenders coming back in?
I think so.
Well, surely they've got other players. Oh, well, it's hard with the defenders coming back in, isn't it? But surely he's played well enough. You can't drop the bloke after a performance like that. Surely not. What sort of message does that send to the players? In my opinion, I'm not Scott, but I'd be so surprised, and I think Essendon fans would be pretty disappointed as well. I think
he's looked really good, like
100%.
Pick of those debutants.
Fremantle, we've got a lot of tests, a lot of TBCs. Hayden Young still 4 to 5 weeks away. Brandon Walker, not really Supercoach relevant. It could free up Jordan Clark and Luke Ryan a little bit if he comes back in. He could sort of play that negating role, and it'd be good to see him back. Dudley could come back in if anyone's still holding on to him. We've got Geelong. Not really too much going on here. They lost to Koning over the weekend for 4 to 5 weeks with a shoulder. Who else is here? Ted Closey could come back in. I know Scobes is pretty keen to see him back. So would I be keen to see him back, seeing as I picked him up at 103K and he scored well and got dropped. But we can only hope. For the Suns, a couple of Grahams there out on the injury list. They're not really Supercoach relevant at the moment, the Suns. The Giants have got Kieran Briggs 1 week away. Now, this is important for a man we're going to talk about in the rookie data. We've got Nick Madden on the bubble this week. Now, it's very enticing. But with Briggs a week away and their bye next week, is it one we simply have to pass up? What do you reckon?
I think so.
Probably, yeah. Like he's a big human. Seeing him on ground level, he's a big boy. But it's such an awkward spot. You're pretty much like he doesn't play. You can't play both him and Briggs in the side, surely. But
could you what is it? There's
you got Hogan and Cadman.
And then Riccardi's playing really well as a second ruck. Like it's probably Riccardi or Madden at the end, and I don't think they'd probably go away from it.
Yeah. They've also lost Toby Green, Sam Taylor, Brent Daniels as well. Sorry, Janath. So that's a fairly big outs for them too. But yeah, I don't know if they could go that sort of 4 talls in the forward line. Like I don't think Nick Madden would be playing forward really at all. I haven't seen him play, but I just know that he's sort of really rucking at the moment.
Yeah. I guess that the other thing that we probably want to talk about here is we saw that Daniels got subbed out pretty early in the game and then Whitfield wasn't moved forward, which I guess is a promising sign to say that now the magnet that Adam Kingsley uses to sort of shift things around isn't to move Whitfield into the forward line. It'll be interesting to see who the ins are and whether either Daniels or sort of Toby Green get up to play. Sam Taylor's a big loss, and that's going to be interesting as well because that probably means that Harry Himmelberg goes back into defence. And do we see Lee Kalia, Jack Buckley there with Himmelberg? And it's more that settled back 6-7 we've seen in years gone by with the Giants as opposed to the moving parts like Himmelberg onto the wing, Whitfield forward. So hopefully that's the way that they choose to end up going.
That would be very ideal. Now, Hawthorn have got to bye this week. Sicily's still to be confirmed. Will Day 5 to 7 weeks away. And Warple has a test, so he probably plays. But there's not really too much going on there for Supercoach. The D's
Can I go on a rant very quickly?
Yeah, I was going to say we've skipped past this.
On Henry Hustwaite. Mate, you get an opportunity every once in a blue moon to perform at AFL level, and you dish that up. No wonder you get subbed off at halftime every single game. Like, come on, man. Are you serious? Like, look, it was probably Hustwaite being a spud that ended up me putting McCarthy on field, so I can't go at him too much. But, like, seriously, dude, like, you're not going to get a game in this team. If you're slow, you can't kick, you can't get the ball, you don't tackle. I'm sorry to have a go at the young bloke, but as a Supercoach option that's been holding him, he's been a rabble.
DR, do you have him as well?
No, I was spewing because I traded him 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I thought, as you would not believe it, I thought he was the deadest rookie I had. I thought, no way this bloke's come in. And then he dishes up that, and I'm like, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's actually saved us a little bit because a lot of people did play him and got burned. Now, Aiden Johnson could come back in. Not really much going on here next week for the Ds. Jack Henderson, a name that's well gone. He could see senior action, but who knows? North Melbourne, Charlie Combin's got a test for his shoulder. Hopefully he's all right because he has been pretty injury prone. Zane Dursma, Finbar Maley, Will Phillips sort of tearing it up at VFL level, but not really reliable rookie options for us. We've got Port Adelaide, who had Manny Liddy make his debut, the bloke with the leg sleeve. I'm not sure if any of these guys here necessarily affect him too much. Maybe Wines gives him a couple of extra weeks there, sort of playing like a half-forward wing role.
JHF? Isn't he done his...
Not on there. He's fine. Good to play.
You're joking, really?
Yeah.
I can't believe that. Another mini ran on him. Like, the price point I was targeting is not there anymore. It's like, it was almost to the dollar it felt, and that's why it's dangerous to do that, but super frustrating.
What were you looking to get him at?
I was hoping like 430 to 440.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's not happening anymore.
No way. Like,
long gone.
Like, it may be my predictions, but it is what it is.
Would have gone bigger.
Like
that, he left a score out there with that injury, unfortunately.
Damn, like that's scary. Yeah, scary.
Yeah. The Tigers, another team. Oh, no, we actually don't have to zoom out today. They've got a couple of their young players coming back. Maybe we see Gibcus. Maybe we see Armstrong. Maybe we're seeing Lawler, Houghton, Smiley before the end of the season. We still got
we don't want that. Keep him for next year. Stash him for next year, Smiley. Like, don't.
Campbell Gray's knee didn't respond well to running at all. Now, that's not good. Hopefully the young lad's okay. But obviously, if you still hold him, more than free to move him on, because I don't think he'll be playing again for the rest of the year. Now, for us, St Kilda, our injury list is not looking too bad. Obviously, King, another setback, but look, I don't even consider him ever being ready to play again at this stage. Filippo, we thought it was going to be bad, but he looks like he's going to play on Saturday night. We've also got Toru, who could come in for his debut. He absolutely killed it in the VFL last weekend. We got smashed.
Stash him.
So stash him, you say, but we
don't need these rookies at 163k this time of the year.
And then we've also got Darcy Wilson, Hugo Garcia, and Hugh Boxall could also come back in. I mean, 30 touches, 12 tackles, and 8 clearances in a side that got smashed. Coming into a side that got smashed at AFL level, surely he gets a recall. What do we reckon?
Fingers crossed. That's all.
He gets a recall. He'll have 45% time on ground. It's not going to make a difference to these blokes, honestly.
They give you 27.
Well, it'd be good to see him in anyway.
I'll take a 27 at the moment. When I get to pay with these blokes,
beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Errol Gordon, a test this week. Could be one where, we get a couple of low scores to start him off. We get him at a cheaper price next year. What do we think?
I just enjoy watching him play. I just think he'll be just fantastic to see him back. Yeah, we've been missing him, and hopefully he can help Sydney to do something and at least end the season in a respectable manner.
Yeah, 100%. We've also got Amadi and Matt Roberts ready to go this week. If Goulden and Papley come in, I'm not sure who the Swans played this week.
Port Adelaide.
They might be in a little bit of trouble.
Port. Adelaide Oval. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That'll be an interesting game because Port are in a bit of form playing at home, but those ins could be very, very big for the Swans. Now, the Eagles, TBC. Oscar Allen's probably the big one, not for Supercoach, but obviously a lot of speculation going around about where he's going to end up. I think DR, you might be hoping he ends up at the Lions.
At the Den.
We just got to wait and see how he goes. Janath, your man
Archer Reid, my boy.
The man.
Now, we might also see Joe Shanahan for his debut. I don't really know much about him other than he's really big and really tall. So we might see him too. Sure, you boys will be saying stash him. Last but not least, we've got the Bulldogs. Not too much Supercoach relevancy going on here. None of these guys are taking Bont, Libba, Richard, Sam Darcy's spot. Riley Garcia could come in, but other than that, I think that sums up the injuries pretty well. Jed Bustinger is waiting for another senior chance. Think he might be waiting a little while.
Very good, Rossco. Well done, mate.
So let's take it away to the rookies. I feel like I've been talking a lot here.
Jeez.
We've
Well,
got a few rookies to cover this week, so we are pretty lucky.
We need to just start off, Rossco, by saying that this man on the screen is actually not playing this week. He's by far and away the best bloke that you can bring into your side at the moment, but he's not even playing. So,
what, DR, the one thing I would say, though, very quickly, he's not playing, but if you need to make a trade work this week, you don't plan to trade next week, I would go McCarthy over any other rookie we have this week.
Absolutely.
Yep. And he's one where, yes, he may get injured in training or whatever, but if it means that you need to do another downgrade this week to make your trades work money-wise, just do it. DPP, 99K.
Yeah. You have to get him in anyway, don't you? And there's no world where this bloke gets dropped. And the other bloke that I'm pretty keen on as well, at a bit of a higher price point, also has a buy this week. He's a mid-forward, so that's one thing I like about him. His DPP has performed really well, which I'm a little bit surprised about when he's come back into the side. I don't know if he holds his spot, but I'm hoping, which is young Butler as well from the Hawks. Yeah. But, not this week. I'd be going definitely early on the man you see on the screen here. But, boys, apart from the two blokes that actually aren't playing this week, is there anyone else that we need to be keeping our eyes open for? We did touch on Nick Madden from the Giants, but he's probably got a week in him, in my opinion. Do you guys think any differently there in regards to Nick Madden? Is there a world? There's no world, is it?
No, I don't know. I mean, Briggs wasn't in the best form, but, he is the number one ruck. And I know Kingsley usually does like to play him. So I think Madden, very risky. I mean, with a minus 89 break even, you could even get a cash grab if you're really, really desperate. But,
on 1 week
not sure if it's worth burning a trade over.
Yeah. I've got two blokes that you could go this week if you don't want to go sort of the Tom McCarthy route. I reckon, Rossco, you're going to say these two names as well. But one of them's a former Blue, former Sun, Jack Martin, playing halfback for Geelong. 33 and 79 in his 2 games. How he had 15 touches, 10 marks on the weekend, but it's the injury risk, no DPP. It just feels like feels like it's go wrong. 150.9K, yeah. And then the other one, DR, is one of your boys, one of your old boys. He was a rookie a couple of years ago. I think you went him, and he got dropped and never played again. Harry Rouston scored 79 on the weekend against your mob, 18 touches, 6 tackles, but was sub in the first game and only scored 3. So he technically is on the bubble, minus 12 break even. You probably have to go there if you want to get him. But with both Martin and Rouston, they have the bye next week. So
yes,
and higher priced.
That's the problem we are facing with a lot of our rookies at the moment. We've got Ramsden as well, 128K forward from the Hawks, averaging 60, minus 45. Probably Butler's a better option anyway, being smaller, around a similar price range, 2K cheaper. Zach Johnson, if you missed him, he's still only 179K with a minus 63 break even, but he does have his bye next week. Same thing with Blackiston and May from Essendon. They made their debut last week, scored 30s respectively. With a bye next week, probably not looking to bring them in, especially not this week. We've got Manny Liddy again, the sleeve man. It was very exciting to see him running around with a leg sleeve. It was like Janath on a Monday night at the Altona Sports Center when we used to play together and rec basketball. But he only scored another 30 as well. And he doesn't have a bye, but I'm not sure if he's going to be the best scoring option for us. Maybe we see something a bit better from him this weekend that could convince us. But Tom McCarthy, definitely the main one, 99K, 133. And we lost Hudson O'Keefe to injury. So there's not really many options this week that don't have a bye this week or next week. It's slim pickings at the moment, but we've got to just try and make do with what we have, I guess.
I've got two more. Bit out there. Yeah. Will Hayes, 113.5K, 2 non-sub affected games. So he hasn't been the sub or subbed on, but 2 scores of 44 for Collingwood. Buy free now, 113.5 DPP is an added bonus. The other one has the buy. Rossco, one of your boys, playing at West Coast. Mini didn't screw him over this week. Bo Allen.
Oh, Bo Allen.
Bo Allen at 119K next week, coming off a 69, looked quite settled in the defensive makeup.
He was good.
But yeah, he's got the buy. So if you want to get Allen and McCarthy in, you could go one this week, one next week, sort of thing. Make a maneuver. As Rossco, Chris Smooth, you say what maneuver could possibly be smoother is something we can keep in mind there.
Jumping on double Eagles defenders in Supercoach. What are we doing?
More Eagles rookies. Haven't we learned?
Well, Bo Allen did do quite well for me on the weekend. He didn't make my top scores, but he was there. He was thereabouts. And who was that? The first one you said again there?
I said Will Hayes for Collingwood.
Will Hayes. Yeah, I didn't consider him. I just think he's going to get dropped. Sorry, Will.
Fair enough.
I think, his time in that side is probably coming to an end sooner rather than later. But he is buy free and on the bubble. So if you're brave enough, I know it was like Ned Long as well. He was going to get dropped and then he managed to get a few weeks. So you never know. Now, topics. We've got some trade targets to discuss. Janath, I know you love taking this one away. You've got your tier list set up for me?
Yes. I've got the tier list set up. I just got to get it at the
This
back
has been a very, very popular segment during the buys. I think people have enjoyed this one. A lot of very positive feedback about it. A little bit controversial, maybe where we've put some of these players. And got to remember that it's got to be like almost a group agreement. Some of us are a little bit higher, some of us are a little bit lower at times. But I think generally we come to a pretty good consensus, I think, at the end of the day with the tier list. But the idea is that we look at the teams coming off the buy, given the fact that they're obviously buy free and hopefully won't miss a game for the rest of the season.
What I will say, boys, is perhaps before we go to the tier list, I know with the players that are coming in, there's not too much relevancy in terms of trade targets compared to the last couple of weeks. I just want to pose a couple of names out there. And I know a lot of coaches, myself including, are considering like a sideways off like the Isaac Rankin, someone that's going onto the buy for someone that's had a previous buy, whether that be a Sam Darcy, whether that be one of those fallen primo mids like a Bont before he plays Richmond, Ed Richards, these types. How do you view that sort of strategy in terms of trading out someone going onto the buy, leading into going like a fallen primo that may be out there? And if so, which fallen primos are you looking at most?
So, Rossco mentioned it before. People are even looking at trading out Gawn and people like that these days, right? So you've really got to look at all options. One thing that I'm considering at the moment is someone like a Lachie Neale, for example. Now, I was meant to trade him last week, as I said, but I don't know how much to take into account this round 16 buy. I'm thinking, is it a silly trade going sideways from someone like a Neale to a Hewitt? I like Hewitt's fixture better. I don't like Neale's upcoming fixture. I think we've got some pretty hard matchups. But how much value do I put on Neale missing a game and Hewitt playing that extra game? So that's something that I'm really trying to take into account this week. That's a very sideways move. I'm not really comfortable going from Neale all the way down to someone around the 400K range. It just doesn't seem right for me at the moment. But I know when I'm looking at it, it is a buy I'm slightly concerned about. I've got 5 primos missing, but I feel at the same time that lots of teams are around the same mark. So maybe I'm not as bad as I'm actually feeling I am here.
So, Dia, you say 5. Who are your 5 primos, mate?
So let me get to my side. So
you'd be Zorko, Neale, Dunkley, Baz, and Whitfield.
Whitfield. That's it.
Yeah. Rossco, what are you looking at
for next week?
Yeah. How many are you missing?
Danger. Big danger.
All right.
Zorko, Holmes, Stewart, Neale, Dunkley, Bailey Smith. There's a lot.
Jeez.
But
I'm looking at the same as you do. Yeah.
I think I'm willing to sort of just cook it for a week to focus on overall structure and the run home.
That's right.
I don't. I'm going to be honest with you. Sideways strategy. I don't have the trades to start farting around with stuff like that. Like I've just managed to get to 22 with McCarthy in at 23. So I don't know if I'd be doing too many more sideways with the trades that I have left. But Janath, if you've got this tier list ready, bring it up. I'm very keen to see our opinions here, and we can take it away and talk some complete rubbish again.
But very quickly, I've got the same. I've got 5 as you, DR, but I've got 2 Giants. So Green and Whitfield, 2 Cats, Holmes and Smith, and then Josh Dunkley, who feels like the fakest of fake primos at the moment, but we won't get into that right now.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Like Hipwood had to go and play back, and so there was a void there. I think that was a bit of the reason why, anyway, about last week.
All right, here we go with the tier list. Now there may be some non-household names amongst this, and look, it'll be very interesting to see the over/under on how many must-haves we end up choosing at the end of this. Let's start off from the left. Johnny Noble for the Gold Coast Suns.
I'm going to go with...
I'm thinking one of these two, but...
Yeah. I'm going to go with better options available.
Yeah, me too.
That.
Yep.
I like that.
I think he fits perfectly there. A bit of a pod pick, but not enough upside to go there for no reason, I don't think.
Compared to this bloke, Josh Dacus, I feel like he's slightly lower rung in his line. Like if you have him, you're not complaining, but you probably prefer sort of the big boys in that defense, like your Naz, your Sinclair, Whitfield, Ash types.
Yeah,
Holmes.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Nick Blakey, simple as a pass.
Pass.
I think he's a pass, yeah.
All right, this one's where it gets interesting a little bit. Noah Anderson.
Oh, I think I'm going to go early here and put him in the top 6 to 8.
Top 6. Yes, I would agree.
His season so far has been good enough, and they've got a strong enough run home that I can see him finishing there to end the season. But I also am not sure if he's must have. What do we define it as last week? Like a top sort of 2 or 3 player in the line. I can't see him up there. But top 6 to 8, I think, is about right.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I guess for me, it would have been top 6 to 8 or slightly lower. Like, I don't sort of view him as a must-have, like someone that's going to ruin your entire week sort of thing. Like, he has the potential to, but we just haven't seen it over a sustained period of time with him. Matty Rowell. Is he
has to go
lower
at least a tier below.
Lower, don't we?
Yeah. But if you have a look at his last 4 games, he's gone toe-for-toe with Anderson. So his last 4 games have been, I think, 114 and 3 120s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so 3 120s and a 114. So
I think his floor is a bit worse, though.
That's the thing. Like, at his best, we know that he's a top 6 to 8 option. That's why people bring him in at the discounted price. But then he just has these weird stretches of a couple of weeks where he just looks nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yep. Yeah. Very.
All right. Here's a big one. Chadley Warner. Is he top 6 to 8? Or is he slightly lower rung in their line?
In the forward line, I think he probably is top 6 to 8. I mean,
as an owner, he's a very sus pick. He feels like
I'll never touch him again after last year, and you guys know that. But I think he might be top 6 to 8 this year.
I think he has to be top 6 to 8 purely because of his ceiling. I know about his floor, but if he gets a couple of those ceiling games, it really does boost that overall season average. So I think we've got to have him there, but I'm feeling slightly lower in my heart of hearts, if I have to be honest.
Do you want him in your final side? I guess that's the question. Like, would you care if he wasn't in your final team?
If you're asking me, would I rather Chad Warner or Sam Darcy?
Petrarca. Yeah, Sam Darcy.
I'd be saying Petrarca over Warner myself. Yeah. And I'd probably even say Sam Darcy over him too.
Fair. That is very fair. Rossco, do you agree with that?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, there's not many that are consistently putting up big scores like he is. Like, I know his flaws are awful. I mean, I went through it, as I said, last year, but,
just his role.
The forward line, we've been stuck with, McRae, Caleb Daniels and all that. And I think Warner's just, a bit better than some of them,
Yeah. That's fair. That's
like, you'd rather have him still than Shea. You'd rather still have him than injury-prone Horn Francis. Horn Francis stays on the field. You'd obviously rather take him, but, at least Warner's playing most weeks.
Yeah.
The annoying thing with Warner is that they played 13 games this season. He's had 5 tons. All of the tons have been 115 plus, but he's had no scores. He's had 1 score between 88 and 115. Like, that's the
really?
Yes.
Wow. That
he's
is the roller 93.
Coaster, that is the only score between what you would call like a poor week for Primo and heading into captaincy territory. Everything else has been either side of it.
Well, maybe we need to, they're sitting next to each other. Maybe it's not the Noah coaster anymore. It's the Warner coaster. Maybe we've got to change
Warner
it up.
Brothers.
The Warner coaster.
The Warner Brothers.
The Warner Brothers. Here we go.
The Warner Brothers.
I like that. Very nice.
All right. That's a very tentative. I feel like that's very contentious. I would put him slightly lower, but we can stick there. Matty Roberts. Is he here or is he slightly lower?
Well, are we talking as a trade-in option?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, or as to having your final team, either or.
I think there's better options available.
I'd be building better options available for me.
It's a weird role because we know that he has quarters where he can get 35 Supercoach points, but then he normally follows that up with a 10-point quarter. Like, he hasn't turned up since round 7. Sort of like he had a really good start to the season, but it's just one of those players. I don't think with Sydney you can sort of trust them in a way. Blakey had a really good game against Richmond as well. Does he take on more of that ball distribution responsibility?
You know, one thing, sorry, very quickly, I'm noticing with him, and I think it's his efficiency, is that he seems a little bit rushed just to put on the boot and just rush and rush kicks out, and they lead to turnovers. So that's one thing. He seems a little bit more rushed with his disposal, and his efficiency hasn't been fantastic. And for someone who doesn't get a lot of contested possessions, that's a bit of a killer when it comes to your score. So, yeah, I'd like to see him get on the foot a little bit cleaner. That'd be nice.
Awesome. We'll go on to the next one then. Errol Goulden. We haven't seen a game of him, but is he like the ultimate pod in a way?
Like, what price is he?
Low 600s?
Yeah, you can't pick him.
581. Sorry, 581.
You can't pick him.
If you see a couple of decent games and you need to do something different, it's the ultimate play because you know what the man can do. Yeah. We talked about what McCarthy did in his first game. Remember back what Errol did in his first few games? Like it was crazy. So where are we putting him at?
Pass, better option.
I think he's a pass, but I think I'm going to get outvoted on that.
No, look, I'm
happy with that.
You got to see him for a couple of games at least. Like, pass for now. You got to.
But I think it's just going to be too late. Everyone's going to have made their upgrades. You know,
I want to know about this guy. This next guy.
This guy is. There's going to be a bit of conjecture here because I reckon he's the one bloke that could be a must-have on this list. So we may have 0 this week. We may have 1. We'll see.
This is funny. I was almost going to give him a massive slap and have him slightly lower for what he's been doing for me. I thought you were going controversial. I thought you were going down. I'm like, is he going there? Is he going? He's gone up to the almost must have. Nah, look, it's.
Well, this is what the criteria is saying. Must have is a player. Must have is a player that you would. In Supercoach finals could ruin your week. Like, if you don't go there. He's still got, so he's averaging, not great. It's the 21st midfielder. But he's got the touches. It's either going to the other team or he's got tagged. When you've got Richmond, West Coast, even St. Kilda this week, like if he doesn't get tagged, that's a big game.
Yeah.
The only thing is, right, I'd argue that only 1 week in the season he's genuinely probably hurt us, which is against us in round 6 with 172. Like he's got a 134, but then we're going down to a 125, 116, 107 type stuff. Yeah. But the scary thing is, surely it's got to come, you'd think, but looking at those scores, I've got a slight feeling here that we are basing this, I'm not going to say off name because we know what his potential is like, but if we look at just what's happened in the numbers, raw data this season, he hasn't been a wonderful selection by any stretch. So yeah, but in saying that, he has the potential to be a must-have. And at the price now, if you haven't got him, yeah, I think you got to put him top 6 to 8 at the minimum, probably.
But he's at the front of that queue.
You reckon? Yeah, that's fair.
Queue.
How about this one? How much do you value the Brownlow factor into this? Because you just know that he got tagged against Melbourne the first time, but then he scored the 186 in the final round when all bets were off. How much do you value the potential Brownlow factor in a very good team that may be jostling for top 2 positioning? Like, do you value that at all in terms of forecasting ahead? Like, he could be in the running, or should be in the running at least, for the Brownlow? And that's why I think he's a top 6 to 8 and not a slightly lower, because I just think that the form Supercoach-wise is going to turn.
If you ask me honestly, like, I'm looking at Nick Dacos and Noah Anderson. I'd love to say I'd rather Noah Anderson, but it's probably Nick Dacos you'd be safer with, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Deal side bottom,
He hasn't been great. He hasn't been great. That's all I'll say. Like, he hasn't been great.
Yeah, he hasn't. Look, I just want to say Steel Sidebottom's name, give him a shout out for being a very good player at his age. He's having a sneaky good Supercoach season. Like, I just want to give him a shout out. He's 530k. His last 6 games, I kid you not. Oh, let's go from the start of the season, these are his scores, okay? 109, 107, 124, 113, 94, 134, 109, 42, 102, 146, 122. He's had 2 scores below 100, one of them being a 94, and then he has a 42, and that's it.
Are you serious?
I'm being dead serious.
I would not. If you would have said, "Who am I?" and you had to give me those scores, there is no way that I would have gone there. What massive disrespect for the man. I thought you were just going to pump him up and then pass straight away. Sorry, mate. But that's pod territory. That's wow.
Yeah, I think he still has to sit there.
Better options
available. Don't get too excited, mate.
Look, but on average,
wow.
On average, he is 2 spots lower than Nick Dacos. He's the 23rd ranked midfielder this season by average. 106.
And isn't that funny that we're thinking one potentially must have and the other you could almost pass? That's ridiculous.
I guess the risk with Sidey getting a rest is much, much higher than Nick Dacos getting a rest. Like, he's already got a rest this season. You could see one coming late season if they've locked in a spot as well. So I reckon that's good. Nank, Rossco, can hand this to you. Not even better options available?
Nope. Pass.
All right. Nank, he says, slap to Nank.
Yeah.
Took Miller.
He'll come good too, but he's a pass. Just well back in the queue.
Well back. Yeah, no, that's fair, mate.
Same with this bloke.
Took. Pass? All right. I'll give you some stats on Took because I feel like that's a bit...
I don't want to hear
a bit disrespectful.
Are you going to disrespect the trademark with a pass? Or?
He's gone... Oh, I guess his high score for the season came the first 2 rounds, 128, 127, and he hasn't gone above 116 since, but he also hasn't gone below 85.
He's like a black hole. He just sucks people in every year.
Well,
put him in the bottom and move on.
Yeah, all right. I was going to say you've got Anderson and Real rung above. He's probably 2 rungs. Yeah, I'm happy.
I'd put him here.
All right, we'll put him 1 down. So we've got 1 on each. Yeah, it looks good there.
What about I Dream of Heaney?
Are we going slightly lower or better?
I think if he finds form, his scoring has shown that he can do really well. I think he's a better pick than Took and Sidebottom, but I also wouldn't be relying on him as much as I'd be willing to rely on Dacos Anderson. So I think that's probably fair.
Does Goulden help him? Like we saw last year with Goulden, how good he was. Does it sort of take a little bit of the load, maybe the attention off? You know, last year when the talk was, how do you put attention into Heaney, Warner, and Goulden at the same time? Does that sort of help him out a little bit? I know he's been a little bit inconsistent, has been hitting the scoreboard, but not as much as last year, if I not mistaken. Like,
could it work the other way though? Could they say now we've got Errol in there where we need to score goals? Heaney's probably our most dangerous forward.
Yeah.
Does it allow him to maybe spend some more time forward? You've got Callum Mills coming back into the side as well, who could also come into that midfield, give him something different that they haven't seen for the season. So, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not saying it will go the other way, but I'm not sure. I think it could go one of two ways potentially. So it could be bad, could be good. I'm really, just be guessing at this stage.
Cool. I'm happy with Heaney slightly lower. Rossco, do you think he's better options or slightly lower?
Nah, I think he's fine there.
Darcy Cameron.
I think he goes in slightly lower.
Yeah.
I know you discussed this last week, Janath. I mean, top 6 to 8 probably means top 2 to 3 for the rucks. And you probably had Gawn, Sherry, TDK, Marshall, Cameron, English, probably all around that mark.
Yeah. Probably.
I think he probably goes there.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's better than like
Millsy.
O'Brien. Yeah.
No, you're good. Right. DR, do you agree with Darcy Cameron in slightly lower?
Yeah. I think you've always got the two big boys, and I think he's just in that next sort of bunch, really, isn't he? You could throw a dart there and wouldn't be surprised to see him or a TDK or anyone like that finish next on the leaderboard.
Callum Mills. So I think he's in this category, slightly lower. I don't see him as a top 6 to 8 defender. And I don't see him as a must-have just purely because of the role. You just never know what you're going to get with Callum Mills as well as the injury history. But this is where I'm out now. You two boys, where do you think he goes?
Well, I want to pose a question to you two boys. Who would you rather in your side? Callum Mills at his price or Tom McCarthy at his price? Who would you rather?
McCarthy.
McCarthy?
Yeah.
All right. How about if they're at the same price? Who would you want?
How many games has McCarthy played?
You just go up what you've seen for 1 week. Just for
McCarthy.
1 week.
I think, still. Mills seagulled it up with no Roberts against Richmond.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? So think about what we're talking here. Yeah. A bloke like in Callum Mills, it has a history of going massive scores here, captain the club, At the same price, we're going a bloke who's played 1 game from the mid-season draft, who plays in the back one for West Coast.
I guess the thing is,
it's role, isn't it?
If it gets to the same price, that must mean that he's done something.
Yeah,
right? That's where I'm sort of viewing it.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's a ludicrous statement. Yeah.
Well, I've seen and I'll tell you why. I'll throw this out there. We're talking about potentially trading out primos to lesser known guys, all the rest. Something I was considering is going down from Roberts to a Mills and thinking, okay, I can free up almost 100K that way. And I don't think that, if you ask me who would you rather, Roberts or Mills, I wouldn't really care each way. I think they'd be potentially even similar. And then I'm thinking, do you know what? Is it just worth going, being a bit radical, given the fact they've already got 7 defenders with McKercher there as well, going Roberts down to McCarthy potentially next week, and then freeing up money and then being able to get another star somewhere else. It's
radical.
Something I'm really weighing up. Something because I don't have many trades left in the bank, and it's a massive decision for me. So, yeah, I really don't know. So it was a bit of a selfish question there, sort of Mills versus McCarthy.
Yeah. Roscoe, what were you going to say?
I was going to say with the Eagles, that's what sort of leans me to McCarthy over Mills if they're even at the same price, is the role. Over the last few years, we've seen players have this role. Some of them haven't been the best ball users. McGovern was really good because he could intercept as well. But he took a lot of the kick-ins. Before that, we had Hearn, who used to be quite decent in Supercoach. Then after that, we had Witherden, who wrapped the ball up but didn't use it very well. Kept getting himself in and out. Then we had Marek, who was the same. Not the best ball user, but was winning it a lot. And now we've finally got McCarthy, who's taken that role and, has been playing it in the waffle and could be the guy who, is a more assured ball user, and that role could actually give him the points. I think the Eagles have always tried to have that, but some of them have been butchers. Like even Tyrell Dewar, he got the Rising Star nom. he got 27 touches, but he still butchered the footy, sort of playing that halfback role, whereas McCarthy was very composed and, hit a lot of his targets. So,
no, I like that, mate. Cool. Good discussion there, boys. We'll finish off here with Dan Houston. I think it's a better options available.
Better options. Yeah, he's not the Dan Houston of Port Adelaide, is he really? So I think it's pretty easy, to be honest. I think that's a really easy decision. Rossco, any different thoughts there, buddy?
Yeah, no, I've never really thought about, jumping on him. I know there's been a few people that are like slightly keen, his price is down, they have a nice run, but, he's just not really one that I've had considered.
Yeah, sounds easy. Good, mate. What I would like to do now, boys, very quickly, is to look back on a couple of previous tier lists and see whether we would change anything. So this may be a bit radical, because it helps to bring up and talk about sort of our trade discussions of weeks gone by. And I'll come back to the round 14 and sum that one up as well, because I know we just want to get the names out. In terms of must-haves, we had Tristan Cherry, Bont, and Butters. Any movement there, up or down, so we can get some players out from the other tiers and move them up, sort of thing?
No, they probably still sit there.
I'm happy with that.
One move I'd like to make is move Sam Darcy up. I saw enough in his first game. I think he had 16 targets inside 50 out of only about 23 or 24-ish, which wasn't happening early in the season. Now that he gets the lion's share, he's going to put up some monster scores that I think will just get him into that territory.
This is really hard as well. I suppose you can't. Just looking at the names there, you've already got midfielders, Bont, Butters, Libba, Richards, that are in top 6 to 8.
Right.
George Hewitt, I really like the look of George Hewitt, actually. I think he's had a really consistent
Hewitt
season.
And Libba?
Yeah, I think I'd do that.
You know what? If you ask me who would I rather in my side, I would probably rather George Hewitt in my side over Libba. And that's no disrespect to Liv. I love the man. He's had a great season, but I'm really liking look at George Hewitt at the moment.
And what about these defenders, Sheasel and Dale?
Do they go to top 6 to 8?
I reckon they both do. They're both looking.
Yeah, I reckon they can quite easily.
Yeah.
And I think Cripps has to go down to a pass.
Fair enough. My king.
He's been in awful form. I don't know what's going on.
How about LDU as well? Do we even give LDU better options available after what he's like?
He's getting to 100, so I feel like it's a bit stiff to move him down.
Yep.
But yeah. TDK, is he the third best ruck now? Like as a solo ruck?
Well,
it could still be Grundy.
Could still be Grundy. That's fair.
It's still the concern with team sheets this week as well. With Curnow and Kai out, it's potentially the Pito factor as well, which slightly scares me. If your key forwards were fit, I think yes, I would have him third. Yeah. But given that slight doubt, I'm probably not willing to chuck him up yet.
And I'll address the elephant in the room. Is Bont still a must-have?
Yeah.
We can't say no after just one game, I don't think. I'm still having him there.
It's been a couple. It's been a couple sub-Bont games.
Is it just
Richmond this week?
I think he still is, but I need to see something against Richmond.
He bounces.
He shouldn't get tagged. He shouldn't get tagged.
Ask us next week after we've seen him play against Richmond, mate, and we'll be able to give you a definitive answer, I reckon, almost then.
All right. I think we're happy with that.
13.
And then we'll go to round 13. So round 13 was an interesting one. We had Sinclair and Brayshaw as the must-haves. Jordan Clark, Luke Jackson, and Naz as top 6 to 8. McRae and Sarong as slightly lower. Marshall, Bolton, Ryan as better options. And Steele as a pass. Sarong. Discuss.
Have we seen enough from that one ceiling game now to put him up, or
no? It's against North. I just need to see more still.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciated his score. Don't get me wrong.
He looked better. Like he got on the scoreboard. I think he had the tackles. If I just didn't make that up, I don't.
I would
But he just needs to
love
do it
to
more
have
often.
Nas as a must-have.
Yes, he had 10 tackles. He's had 8 and 10 tackles in the last 2 games. Sarong, that is. 36 touches. I think maybe he's right on the border. I'm happy with him being on the border. Oh, sorry. Jordan Clark. Sorry. There you go.
Do we need to give Jack Steele a little bit more respect?
Another time. Is he a black hole, Ross?
Yeah, don't do it.
All right, we'll leave you there. You're the St Kilda man.
But Naz, is he a must-have?
Game day squad, yes, definitely. Pick him every week.
He's got a nice run, and he looks so good. He's so good.
On Naz, like, if one's a must-have, does that make the other a must-have as well? Because I feel like they're going just toe for toe.
Well, they split the role.
Yeah.
You're pretty much going to get everything owning both of them. Yeah. And Naz actually butchered the ball a little bit from memory, if I'm not so wrong, and still ended up with a really nice score. So that could have been, if he was actually on with foot, a much bigger score. So
I'm happy to keep Naz as a top 6, but I just don't think he has the ceiling. We haven't seen a ceiling score from like a 160 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in the way that he plays, I don't think he'll score 160 unless he has like the 45 touch, 15 mark sort of game, because he's not really contested. And the only way that can happen is if he goes forward, and I don't think he gets the possessions as a forward. Rossco, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I don't know what he scored against Giants gather round, but that was a game where he had a lot of the ball and he kicked 3. I'd be curious to see what he scored there, but I feel like that's his ceiling.
133.
Yeah, so wow, he kicked 3 and he still got on
24 touches only though. See, like that's the thing. Like he can get the 3, but he'll probably come at the expense of the touches or the marks.
Yeah, keep him there.
Keep him there, I reckon. All right, and we'll just finish off by just summarizing the round 14 options. So we have no must-haves. This is revolutionary. No. We have as top 6 to 8 options Nick Dacos, Noah Anderson, and Chad Warner. Slightly lower rung in their line, Matty Rowell, Josh Dacos, Isaac Heaney, Darcy Cameron, and Callum Mills. As better options available, Steele Sidebottom, underrated season, Matty Roberts, Johnny Noble, Tuke Miller, and Dan Houston. And finally, in the pass category, Errol Goulden, welcome back. Probably plays his first game this week. Nick Blakey and Toby Nank the Tank Nankervis.
Beautiful. With that all summed up, I think it's time to move on to what could be a bit of quieter part of the potty this week. It's still quite important for some, but we've got our trades. Second time's the charm. DR, take it away.
If you can see this on the screen, it really says it all. I don't know what to say. So here's a cat with a mop on its head. That pretty much sums up my thoughts in regard to trades at the moment. I'm legitimately all over the place. Legitimately, whether to go down from a Neil or a Roberts, trade out a Campbell Gray, or to trade out someone like a Clay Hall. There are so many options going through my mind. Ideally, what I'd really like to do is somehow get Sam Darcy into my side this week against Richmond. I think the break-even's very high, but I think he could even go close to his break-even this week. So I'd love to have him in the side. I'd love to have Horn Francis in the side. I need that one more forward slot to finish the team. So it just doesn't feel like I've got enough money to make the move this week. So it could be a Neil to a Hewitt. It could be a Mills in from a Roberts. It could be a McCarthy in for someone. There are so many options, and I haven't even done my round review yet. So maybe when we're done with the potty and mailbag, all that sort of stuff, I may even do a round review and talk about my trades and maybe do it with the community because I need some help this week, boys. No idea.
Now, Janath, it seems like you've got it pretty simple. What do you reckon? You're going to lock that in?
Yeah, look, I had 13.6K in the bank, and this trade takes 13.3. So,
wow,
maybe it's riding in the stars right there. Rankin, he's been so as someone that started him, and we had him as a must-have. DR, if you remember back near the start of the season, we were talking about how there were no must-haves across the comp. And then we had Rankin as a must-have, just the way that he started the season. But since round 8, his score's been 97, 90, 87, 62, 89, 81. And yes, they have Richmond off the bye and quite a friendly run home. But perhaps it may just be worth getting him in at that point. The role, he still gets the CBAs, but I just feel like something's a bit off on the pick. And the human skyscraper, on the other hand, Sam Darcy.
Human skyscraper.
It feels like such a dangerous antipod. Like if he plays anywhere near, like he didn't have a great game against St Kilda. Straight off, like it wasn't a great game. He was like he had the marks and everything, but there's so much scope there. Playing second ruck as well. I think that's where I'd look to go and then potentially bring Rankin back in near the end of the season. DR, very quickly with your trades, is there a world where you don't make any trades at all this week, or are you looking to get on someone this week?
The issue is if I need another decent forward and I've got legitimately no cash gen on my bench at the moment. So I'm hoping that even if I don't make any trades this week, I'm thinking of getting a McCarthy in this week because I need a little bit of extra money because I don't have that boost. And then it may have to be a Zach Johnson out and a Clark out to maybe a non-playing rookie or hopefully a Butler and then that extra forward. So there's a world where I don't have to trade, but I feel like I need to downgrade to prepare for next week to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
now for me, I'm also jumping on the human skyscraper. I'm also going to call him an AFL Nepo baby, one that I was very not fond of on Thursday night after he tore us to pieces. But I'm keen to be on him now on Supercoach. He's got a nice run home. They play the Tigers. Might even chuck the captaincy on him this week for a laugh. You never know. But it was very simple for me. Visentini and Patton. Visentini made me a little bit of cash, but he was just holding a spot. Ben Patton hasn't done anything for weeks. Sam Darcy and McCarthy seems like a no-brainer to me. So I'm more than happy to lock that in. That leaves me with 22 premiums across defence, midfield, ruck and forwards. McCarthy at 23 with 4 trades left. So I'm pretty happy to sort of roll with that and see how we go for the rest of the year. Now, one way which I am planning to make some gains is through captaincy. And we've got the captain's corner now. So, Janath, if you want to take it away into some matchups, I know you love your matchups that you want to target. There's a few spicy ones here this weekend.
Nah, cheers, mate. Yeah, look, I guess we'll start off straight off the bat by talking about Thursday night. Fremantle against Essendon, sorry. There's some great matchups here. If you have any of the Freo mids, in terms of Sarong, Brayshaw, even a Luke Jackson. Now, Luke Jackson, yes, he's ruck sharing with Sean Darcy, but off the short break, only a 5-day turnaround, I could see Sean Darcy getting the game off. And if you're Luke Jackson owner, that VC against Vigo Vicentini, a debutant, could look lovely. So that's one that you could look at there. Personally, I'm looking at VC and Andy Brayshaw here. I think he's been in great form. That last 5 minutes, I VC Tristan Cherry because I was like, look, he's in great form. Yes, he probably doesn't have the matchup, but the form factor. And then Cherry's on about 107 at 3/4 time. I'm very close saying, all right, here we go. C can go on a non-playing player. Ends on 105. He's gone backwards in the last in the last quarter. Andy Brayshaw's about 86 at halfway through the fourth, and he's just done everything to get them over the line. So, yeah, it looks like he's at a great pick. Nick Martin's an interesting one. Not so much the form or the opponent form, but his form at Optus Stadium. 145, 122, 124. A really tempting one. That leads way into both Max Holmes and Bailey Smith. Again, yes, the recent form is there, especially for Holmes, even for Smith. But if you look at their averages at GMHBA, last 3, 152, 128, 134 for Holmes, and 118, 154, 108 for Smith. You take that. Playing the lines is the tough part, I feel. And so perhaps it's worth straying away from them because you have better matchups coming. And I'm talking about George Hewitt against North Melbourne. A great pick. He went 171 on them earlier this year. Playing at the MCG as well should be a great matchup there. This one is for the not faint-hearted. Nick Dacos. I wouldn't be going there with the C just in case he gets tagged. But if he doesn't get tagged, we saw what Ed Richards did to St Kilda on the weekend. They're very similar players, I feel. Can Marcus Windhager go with Nick Dacos, Rossco?
I don't know. We did discuss this in the game day video the other day. I reckon Windhager is a bit more of a, as we'd call him in the footy sense, a foot soldier. You know, he's not exactly quick. He's not exactly pacey, but he runs a lot. I don't know whether that bodes well for him against Nick Dacos because the Bont is, you know, big and strong. He's not the quickest player in the AFL. And I think Windhager did have a bit of an easier time going with him, even though he took him forward and all that sort of stuff. Whereas Dacos, he's fast, playing under the roof. You know, I think the last couple of games for Collingwood, you know, there's been rain, it's been cold, they've been playing at the MCG, all that sort of thing. Get him under the roof where there's no weather to impact him. And, you know, hopefully he can run rings around Windhager. I can just see that happening. I mean, it'd be good if Windhager could lock him down and we win, but I just don't see it. I think Dacos might just break the tag.
Yeah, cool. This matchup is a very interesting one. And I'm not quite sure why it is, but Gold Coast is the easiest matchup for inside mids, both over the last 5 games and the last 10 games. So if you're a Tom Green owner, like myself, this could be a fallback option. The form has been there, 110, 140, 115 last 3. Against Gold Coast has been there, 117, 109, 147, and at NG Stadium as well. Lockie Whitfield, another good option. Now that he's back in defence, he should start to pick it up a little bit. But this is where the money's at. The last game of the round, Western Bulldogs against Richmond at Marvel Stadium. Who do you go? If you're a Bailey Dale owner, he's not on here, but he should be. Bailey Dale doesn't average above 25 touches against any other team except for Richmond, who he averages 29.7 disposals per game, I think.
Very nice.
And as the highest of his career. He could have a field day, a picnic, as we like to call it. Definitely a game day squad pick. But the Bont. Do you have the kahunas to captain Bont if your VC doesn't work, given what is dished up over the last couple of weeks?
100%. If we've traded in Bont, we have to be willing to captain him. This is the reason why we brought this bloke in for matchups like this. I suppose the only reason why he may not is because you do have a couple of other pod options there. Do you go with your Ed Richards or do you go with your Sam Darcy as that forward that I think will be close to unstoppable? Who knows what he could do on the weekend against the Tigers. But surely if we've traded in Bont, we can't be spooked off all of a sudden and not captain this bloke against Richmond. So I'm going to stick fat with him. And I'm personally going to look to go Andy Brayshaw into the big Bont himself.
Yeah. And very quickly, sorry, Bont's last 3 scores is missing one key number. It should say 66 at the front, 101, 107. Which is quite important. Even worse, but it's all right. Now, we'll put a round table, boys. DR, who did you say you're going to VC and C again?
Brayshaw into Bont for me, mate.
Brayshaw into Bont. I'm going to double down on that. I like Brayshaw into Bont as well. Rossco?
For me, I think I'll probably go very similarly, but I'll go with Sarong into Bont. I don't own Brayshaw.
Yeah. But it's the same sort of method, going after matchups in that way. Perhaps Bont may not work, but numbers say he's gone 135, 153, 122 against Richmond in the past. And we know how he goes at Marvel Stay. I feel like I jinxed it, saying how good he is at Marvel. And then he's put out a 101 and a 66. So we'll see how that goes. But look, boys, that brings us to the end of the Captain's Corner. Make sure to tune in tomorrow or Wednesday for the full Captain's Corner that will be released on the Third Man Up with Rossco and I.
100%. Now, we've got a mailbag. I think we might break this down into a separate video as we have been over the last couple of weeks. We've already got 40 questions to get through. So it's still got a little bit longer. I mean, not by the time you're watching this, but the people have still got a little bit longer to get their questions in, which does bring us then to the end of the podcast. Now, we've covered a lot. We've covered some injuries, some trade-in options after the bye, rookies, captains, our trades. I think it's going to be a very interesting round because while there's been a lot going on, it does feel like at the same time there might not be much happening at all, you know. Some people might not be trading, some people might be boosting, but really the danger round, as we know, is probably coming up in round 16. So that's the one that we all get to look forward to, don't we think?
Yes, yes.
Well,
tell you what, I would love to get the human skyscraper in this week. I really would. I'm so tempted now after thinking about him playing against Richmond. And oh man.
Yeah,
still don't know what
100%.
I'm doing.
So obviously, good luck with your Supercoach this weekend. I mean, Janath, we're hoping that you'd be able to put up another big score and carry the potty to glory. What do you reckon? Can you deliver? No pressure.
Top 500.
No pressure. Look, we'll try our best, but I guess it's just fun to always be on the potty with you boys as well. I feel like we need to finish on something niche every week. So what I'm going to go around very quickly. Last week it was the whipping boys at each of our clubs. This week, very quickly, who was the player growing up that was your favorite player? I'm going to start Brendan Favola. Random shout out. Loved Big Fev. Just brought the young kids into the crowd. It was always good with the kids as well. That was my idol growing up.
Yeah, well, I'll go next then. Paul Roos. Paul Roos is my idol. Captain for Brisbane, number 1. Had the mullet. I had the mullet, all through primary school, as most kids did back there in the 80s. But absolute idol, mate. Love Paul Roos. Just, easily number 1 in my books.
For me, I think I'm going to go with the one Lenny Hayes. I mean, we had a lot of champions when I was very young. We had Rue, we had Goddard, Cozzy, Del Santo. But Lenny was just, he was some player. I mean, a special midfielder and, delivered so many highlight moments for us. So I think I'd probably go there.
Nah, fair enough. That was good. I reckon we should do one of these every week. It just brings our sort of love for the footy together.
Absolutely.
100%. This is a good, if you're still watching. If you're still watching, then drop a comment. Know who your favorite player was growing up as well. Now, make sure to keep your eyes peeled. DR's got his round review. We've got our mailbag coming out as well. On the third man up, we'll be dropping Captain's Corner. We'll also be dropping Pods and Locks of the Week and a Fade of the Week for Game Day Squad as well. Team reveal, there's plenty going on. So, even though Supercoach might be starting to get to the quiet end of the thing of the season, we might be really ramping it up in other ways with this new contender comp coming out as well. So any last thoughts, boys?
No, just a big shout out to Spillsy, obviously, our man who's not with us tonight, but he will be back in a couple of weeks. And I reckon some magic's going to happen. He's going to come back and he'll be in the top 500 or something, no one spills. But shout out to you, brother. And remember, guys, at the end of the day, it's just a game that we all love. And look, if you're struggling with the season, why not make a couple of crazy moves, get some players in that you enjoy watching and have a little bit of fun with it. At the end of the day, ranking isn't anything. It's a free game that we can play year upon year. So we all go through some really great years. We go through some tough years, but just try to enjoy yourself at the end of the day.
100%. I think you've summed it up really well, DR. Janath?
Yeah, look, I guess I was going to go along the same sort of lines, DR. If you're not enjoying playing Supercoach, just pick some pods. Like, who cares? Like, I can't do it right now, but I would love to pick Miles Bergman. He's just a joy to watch. He's like, just watching those kinds of players where you enjoy watching them. And it's partly why I went Naz last week as well, because I'm like, do I really want to sit at the TV and watch North, like, play Chip or Callum Mills and see if he gets injured again like I've already experienced? Probably not. So let's go Naz. He's just a joy to watch in that way, mate. So, yeah, if you're not enjoying playing Supercoach at the moment, just take the pressure off, pick some players you enjoy watching and see how your team goes.
And play game day.
Beautifully done.
You can play game day squad. And week upon week, it's never too late. That's a good thing with the game day squad. It is literally never too late to get involved. So make sure that you do use that code PEANUT when you sign up. We'd love to see you there. We're building a really good community.
All right. I think that sums it up pretty well. So thank you for tuning in and looking forward to the content coming out for the rest of the week and a bit of a recap back again, same time, same place again next week. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been fun. See you next time.
Gotcha, boys.